Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of a $11,000 unboxing. I kind of need to explain what's going on. I've been asked where is this video by multiple people, and I'd done a part 1 where I tore into this big collection that was like 55 pounds of stuff that I bought from England, and this is the latter component of it. I had originally unboxed a little bit and I pulled some coins that I could auction them, and then I did the same thing where I did like a 2-minute video that you're about to watch, and then 2 large unboxings over last night and then tonight. And so that's where we're ending up, but it just takes so long for me to inventory this stuff where I needed to sell some of it, couldn't inventory all of it before then. So you're getting to see there's tens of thousands of dollars of stuff in the mail headed to us that I'm really excited. We got a French collection, Estonian collection, Austrian, I think 3 Austrian collections. So we're really trying to be active buying in the international markets and bringing as much of that as possible to you. So anyways, excited for it. And we got to hear from Gabe and try to get him on some content. Basically, Gabe and Isaiah are currently down in Texas. Gabe just arrived to go full-time, full steam ahead with Treasure Town. And so I know they're doing an auction later today when this video releases on whatnot. And I think that they're just going to be pressing really hard. Also focusing on ramping up our eBay. We have about 800 items. I think we're going to try to target that to quickly and steadily increase. But we got to settle in. And with that being said, I'm going to take you to the first part and then a longer unboxing. And a lot of this stuff will be, I'll be selling in the coming weeks. So anyways, fun unboxing. It's like Storage Wars, except it's real. And I'm buying all of it purely from the business perspective, plus holding some of the favorite stuff for my personal collection. So let's get into the unboxing. And as you can see, everything is now splayed out on the table, so I just want to highlight a few quick things. So first, I'd paid like very little, maybe $100 for like all of these bulk lots, which is a great deal until I had it shipped. But the big takeaways there was a 1600s King William III crown, and then this nice earlier British crown as well, 1893 Queen Victoria. And then over here, let's like start getting into it. So we have a bunch of World War II different types. We had some interesting like coins, porcelain from China and Vietnam in the 1800s. Those are, I'm not sure as much on the value. This seems kind of interesting. I'm gonna get a closer look at it in a little bit, but we got some things like proof sets. We got a bunch of silver. Over here I wanted to highlight a bunch of these crowns, and the reason that I'm kind of being rushed here is that I'm gonna actually auction off a good bit of this the day after, like the morning after I film this, literally. So I want to get a view of it before I go slow with it later and go lot by lot. Probably going to take a few of these crowns to auction. Probably going to take some of this Swiss silver. We've got some really interesting Mondi types of King George III. That's who in America we gained independence from. And these were like special issues, mintages less than 10,000 that they would hand out. So very special and significant. We've got some interesting like crown size, and that's actually a full crown, but then there is some copper. There's a later 1951, and that's actually a coin. I think it's from like Paraguay or something. We got some metals, as you can see. Anyways, pumped to get through this, but it's going to look a little bit like I took a few coins out of it just to get ready for some sales. There's some Queen Elizabeth I, back when Queen Elizabeth was the queen in the late 1500s, I think till about 1601. So just saying, I'm going to use some of this in auction, but it'll be a great treasure hunt for when we go mostly coin by coin and metal by metal later. So as a reminder, day after I filmed that video, right after, I was packing everything up to put it away and didn't have the time to unbox it, but did need to pull some of it in for auction. So you're going to see a few of those coins surface again, and I basically took a bunch of the different things laying out on the table, put them in bags broadly by the type of coin that they were, and now it's time to go look at them closer. So let's check it out. I think I did crowns first and then focused on a bunch of the other stuff. And then on the metal front, we did some of the metals, but I didn't go on every literal single one just because I thought that would make the video too long. Let's check out the unboxing. And I'm thinking that our first step here is going to be focusing on a lot of the crown size stuff. And so I'm going to basically organize all of this by year, talk it through. I have to figure out what percentage of this, because it looks like by looking at the edges, we've got some modern stuff. We've got some maybe like King George the 5th or 6th. That's going to be kind of intermediary. That looks like an old Queen Victoria crown, which is great. And, nice, basically we got some good stuff here, but there's also might be a little bit of clad, and so I just want to check it out. The clad stuff is still collectible, and it looks like there's a lot of cool stuff in the back. I do want to call this out. I was like, that looks a little bit off, and then I realized this is like a tin, but I have to figure out when it was struck. Like a tin restrike. It talks about India. I think it's like Queen of India, and then Fide Defense. That's the FD. That's always referenced on the front. But I got to figure out what's going on with that. If there's if it's worth $2, if it's worth 20, doubt it's worth more than that. And can't wait to open this up and give a little quick history. Okay, so I separated out everything by date. So at this stage, I've basically unboxed all of the crowns, though. I mean, I'm seeing right here next to me, like there's still bags and bags of stuff to go through. But we're going to take a look. First up, these were probably some of the best coins in here. This is Charles the Second, and I need to get better at my British history, but 1676, he's going to have taken over after the English Civil War. He takes back control from Oliver Cromwell, and so a pretty significant guy in history. Next up, you get James II, who reigns for a pretty brief period of time. I think that says, because he's in from 85 to 88, I think that's an 87 crown, and so obviously pretty worn, but not the most common ruler, and he was overthrown in the Glorious Revolution. He was very much like pro-Catholic, and William and Mary take him down. There's obviously the famous American College William and Mary that some of my friends went to, actually. But then we've got, there's 1696. I don't think we have a date on this one. That one might be 1696, but I'm not positive. And are we going to be, not that it's a curse, but it's always better to have more dates. Okay, let's actually, now I want to see, would it have been up there? No, it says, where's the Rex over here? So Rex, this is, oh, this is, okay, yeah, no, it's William III. So why am I not, BRFRA? Is this some other, okay, there's BRFRA. Nice. Yep, there it is, the 1-6 at the bottom. And that date looks pretty solidly worn off, but still some interesting coins. He led that Glorious Revolution and basically secures Protestant rule in Britain. Moving on, we're going to have this awesome bank token. So I think that it's technically, and there's obviously some, like, I think it might have been mounted at one point. This is an 1804 bank token, 5 shilling value. They were overstruck on 8 reals. It's pretty heavily cleaned as well. But King George III, he sees a lot of the decline of the British Empire, really. He's the guy that we take America and he loses the colonies. And I think there's more declines, later on in terms of them losing territorial power and their kingdom, like in the 40s, 50s, like the decolonization. But in terms of just like struggling at the global stage, probably King George III is going to be your good example. He definitely had some problems with mental illness, and then his son George the Fourth ends up taking control in the 1820s, and so we see that George I. It's always interesting that they don't do the IV as much. I think it just wasn't convention at that stage. And then Queen Victoria, that's really kind of a re-strengthening. All of these are 1845 crowns of the British rule. So you get a ton of colonization. I remember I recently bought a nice group of coins from Mauritius. And then these crowns later, 1888 being the first, that's like a Jubilee head. You kind of see your age on the coins, which is interesting. Here we have a bunch of 1880s. Like, that's actually a beautiful looking crown. So you have some pretty decent condition ones here. All through 1900, that's going to be the last year that they're striking these Queen Victoria crowns. She dies in 1901. This is interesting. 1935, King George, and we'll talk about Edward, who's in between, Edward VII, who's in between Victoria and King George V, but he leads Britain through World War I. These all are like stylistic crowns where you see St. George trampling the dragon. I believe it's St. George trampling the dragon, in like a very modern, interesting new style of light art. I don't know if I prefer it necessarily. And then here's an early King George VI, who's going to reign through World War II. So sort of one of the Georges for each of the world wars, and influential during that period of decolonization. This is in his last year, 1951. George V, 5 shillings. I'm pretty sure these are clad. After World War II, Britain drops from 50% to 0%. Then we have a bunch of different crowns that were just kind of all in a row. 25 écus, I don't understand what this is for. 1992 Europe token. We have a Jersey 5 shillings, which that's like an island in the English Channel. There's a 200 escudos modern coin from Ecuador, it looks like. So sort of an interesting mix. Churchill, the leader, 1972 coin, 77. So some different like Jubilee crowns with an interesting mix of a couple of other types. There's a Queen Elizabeth 1980 25 pence in Tristan da Cunha. So that's interesting crown size one. Churchill. There's, I don't think that this is anything too rare, but a 1897 like fantasy strike. And then down here talking about, so some of the 1902, these are normally pretty popular. These are these King Edward types, but he had some nice crown, half crowns in this example. I also like some of like the early King George V, like 1910 types, but basically he was focused on diplomacy with the rest of Europe, and sort of, given that it was prior to World War I, which I feel like it kind of just caught a lot of the, civilization and society by surprise and launched them into war and destruction over seemingly just a bunch of random allegiances. It was kind of like a calm before the storm time period. We had randomly thrown in here some nice Latvian coins, 5 Lati. I was actually purchasing some Livonian, which is like Latvia and Estonia items that are going to come out in a video soon. Here we have a double florin, which is a smaller denomination, but I think it's larger than a half crown. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a half crown, but I think it's a double florin. And then here we have some older Queen Victoria, and you can kind of trace her portrait. And I think actually these will, all be the young head ones. But you start similar. You have the young head, and then you move to the Jubilee, and then the last. So, I mean, that's really just the first part. I'm going to do a little more historical research on some of these items, but I'm excited also to kind of launch in and look at this bag. This will be the next step. All right, so there's a good amount of stuff to go through, and again, looked up some of the history here. It's actually the next day, and we're just going to dive in. So I think first, this is for Maundy Thursday. It's a Christian tradition prior to Easter. We've got King George III, but this was a bunch of different mix, and this is actually a tradition that's carried on today. I think that they would have 1, 2, 3, and 4 pence designs. So if we take a look at some of these, we've got right here is a King George III. Looks like a little damage in the front of it, but a 4 pence from 1800. And as you'll remember, he lost the colonies, he lost America from British control, and so that was a tough thing for him. There's 1687, going all the way back to Jacob II, who had a very short reign, and obviously I think was taken, the Protestants took back control. There's Queen Anne. She was before King George I. After her, she was like 1702 to 1714, and that's the first time that they would say Great Britain when they unified England and Scotland. Let's see what this one is. This one is going to be, looks like a King Charles II, and that was last night. I assume that this is a one penny. It looks like 1671, and I'm pretty positive that if I remember, he was more on the Protestant side, but I'm forgetting again. I had filming the next day here. There's Jacob II as well, and they're just such like little coins, but very beautiful, and it's always like stunning to see them in modern times. There's a 1 pence 1729, to see like the same Maundy design on modern coins, because Britain dropped the decimal system. Actually, that's a good question. I should check. I think I can't even picture the designs today. I bet that they're pretty sought after by collectors. There's a 1689 and a 1679. There's William and Maria. Oh, that's William and Mary. So I didn't realize that was in there. A little edge damage, but a really, really cool historical coin. And then lastly here, looks like we're going to get a George III, 1762. I just love seeing the numbers on British coins. It's so unusual. And then Charles 1673. Very cool. So next up, I guess we can go, we had a bunch, and I might have flashed these quickly in the last video, but I thought that this was interesting. I looked into bunch of different coins. This one, I think that this is, I actually should have looked this up because I didn't, but I think that that's going to refer to Lima, Peru, where they might have struck it, or it could have been, that could just be totally wrong. But what I did look up is King George II. And so he was overseeing, and I hadn't focused on this, but it was a pretty seminal moment in European history, that 1740s War of Austrian Succession. And so King George II, again, comes in that like 1714 to 1727, and then he reigns for about 30 years. And so, you know, interesting types. I really like them. These are some sixpence. And then we had a range of different ones, 1854, as you can see, at all different points in her reign. I didn't think that there was anything as crazy to focus on there. Some of the Australian ones, I didn't realize this, but there was some like holy dollars in Australian. I think that it related to some of the 8 reals, similar to how they struck over the coins that I, earlier when I showed the Bank of England 5 shilling token. They started making Australian coinage in 1910 locally, but they did make coins at the Sydney Mint and some other gold sovereigns starting in 1855 or so. And there were also some like New Zealand tokens, but there's that Melbourne Mint, and this would have been first year of issue, which is pretty fun. So some nice kangaroo emu little silver coins. Behind that, I think we had more sixpence. These were continued to be from King George, and the rest, pretty similar. I should have looked up William, but William the Fourth is going to reign in between King George the Fourth, William, and the Fourth, and then I think we get to Queen Victoria. There's a nice King George the Fourth as well, because again, third, a little bit insane. Then we had this interesting batch of kind of porcelain, Thai, Siam, a little unclear, and we'll probably dump a couple of these out, but these were then banned from use when they got their own coinage. But there we see like a spider design. That also looks like some kind of a bee. But then on this one we have Chinese characters, and that looks like almost some kind of a tie. So interesting, like 1700s, 1800s, and you can see a couple more Chinese characters. And so I'm going to look into those more. We had Queen Elizabeth I, and this was really a fantastic group. 1593, very clear. One of the key things here is that the different markings on the front of Queen Elizabeth's coins are going to let you know which denomination, in this case sixpence, in addition to their size. But sometimes you get really worn examples, and so it is tough to tell. So I've appreciated being able to use that in the past. That looks like it's been plugged. Where basically somebody punched a hole through the coin and then filled it back up with some silver. That one's in decent shape. I thought this was a very, very nice looking group of British silver, even if a couple of them are hold or that sort of thing. We also had some German Knottgeld, if you're not familiar with it. I've wanted to learn a bit more about these types. These are pretty circulated, and that's actually looks like French. But during periods of currency shortages and emergencies, they would strike local coinage, which is just fantastic history, fantastic World War I kind of throwback, but it can be a very extensive collection to attempt. I'm German, so thinking through all the different provinces and regions that could have, and cities that would have struck their own local small change, because when currency goes, it's a big problem. We have some silver coins here, 1973 25 pence coins of St. Helena. And then over here, this was just like the interesting mix of crowns. A lot of them were not, like this is Falkland Islands silver, but they still had some interesting, like modern but rare collectible status. Here's a Horatio Admiral Lord Nelson of Guernsey, which is much closer to Britain than this coin. Like super random Laotian 10 kip coin, the 5-mast clipper. Laotian is like, that's southern as the hammer and sickle, but like Southeastern Asia. Just very interesting commemorative coins. I've often wondered if it would be possible for Treasure Town to like get, and these are total fantasy strike 25 euro coins. They're not legal tender, but still somewhat collectible. Like get in touch with the government and try to license their country to try to strike some of my own collectible and interesting looking coins. I feel like it could be a racket, but I was thinking that we could do some cool stuff. This is another fantasy piece. These are just 2 ounces of silver. I feel like Canada has some of the best looking silver out there, particularly on the right. You can see there's a bunch of like anti-counterfeiting measures. That's like an older 2013, but this one's, I think maybe 2014 is when they made the switch. I'm not sure. Or maybe this is just like a reverse proof kind of frosty look. And then we had some other rarer Ecuadorian. This is silver, a really cool Chinese, Portugal, because they had the Macau settlement, and that dates back to 1500s. A Djibouti silver coin from 1994, a Cuban 2002 10 pesos, a South African silver, and then we had some other just mixed crowns. Really neat. That I think is going to be, was it like Discovery of Samoa? Yeah, Samoan, maybe one Tonga, Socialist Republic of Albania. Really fascinating. And then let's see, some of the metals that I might not have put too much emphasis on. The Sun King, I still have to go through and inventory all of these. That one is dated to, let's see, MD 1516 1670, but that one does not look like it was struck in 1670, even though it's a Jean Mauger. Let's see, and it's going to say bronze with a horn countermark is going to imply that this was struck sometime likely in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And then we have just like bags of metals. And so I thought, as kind of a fun conclusion to the video, because I think I showed already, but we do have all these ancients that I'm still like going through of this group. We have more, Queen Elizabeth, nice condition types. We've got some rarer old, just a wide range and mix of a different collection. And so, yeah, let's pour this out though and just see what's in there. I've not had time to look at any of this too closely. Like, this looks a little more modern, but founded 1805. I would say this is probably like 1950s metal. Not going to be too crazy, but something like this is really interesting. Let's see, Prince Albert, His Royal Highness. I mean, such good detail. It talks about the London 1851 exhibition, and then over here, Prince Albert, consort of Queen Victoria, also 1851 dated. Even if it's late 1800s, early 1900s, that's still very old and quite interesting. These could be like coronation medals. That looks like Edward and Queen Alexandria. 1902, coronation medal. That one's interesting. Universal Exhibition of London in 1862. I don't think it's silver, but I should probably check the rim. It doesn't have the weight that I would expect silver to have. Still really interesting. Antoine, I think Bovey is who I would expect that to be. And it probably with the original exhibit material. And so, again, a lot of interesting types here. I feel like there's still a lot more even in this first bag. And then I'll probably keep the second bag a secret just so I can show it off potentially live in one of my Whatnot streams. We've got some great ones later today. Isaiah's going, as is myself over the weekend. International exhibition. I mean, just fantastic art. What year is that? That's going to be 1862. That's when it opened. Unclear when the medal was struck. Sir Joseph Paxton. That talks about open 1854. There's another 1862, similar Antoine Bovey. I love how the die spread, but yeah, I need to do more. If it would be silver, that would be insane. I didn't pay for it like it was silver. This one appears to discuss 1857. More Albert, 1851 exhibition. I mean, yeah, these are just some great British history that I'm excited to dig into and better understand, because what would they have been doing? There was all these revolutions from the 1848 time period. I'm not sure how Queen Victoria would have dealt with all of it. And so that is an interesting historical question that I'm going to go look into. In the meantime, I've got to inventory all this stuff. Obviously exciting, but definitely a solid task ahead of me. And we'll look forward. There's some other unboxings. Things are piling up. that I'm about to film probably later tonight or tomorrow. I'll release in the next few weeks. So don't, and like the classic opinion and learning and teaching videos. So I wouldn't say don't go anywhere. Keep subscribing and enjoying the content, and I'll be excited to show everything as it comes in. We've got big plans ahead this year.
Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to head on over to treasuretown.com and sign up for our email list to stay up to date on everything that's happening, whether it's auction updates, exciting new inventory drops, coin collecting news, or general informational resources. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on another one.